Hi, I'm Daniel Lucas, and welcome to Book 101 Review. Book 101 is about the books that I read for the last 40 years, and today I have my special guest. He is money mindset, habits, and belief coach, no other than Mr. Paris Cluff. Welcome to Book 101, Mr. Paris, and can you please introduce more about yourself?
Yeah, you bet. Thanks. First of all, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate the opportunity to share something that's really passionate for me. And, many years ago, I got started as a financial services professional because I wanted to learn more about money for myself. I got many years ago, I qualified for the 401k at work. And all I knew about money back then was that it was green and I wanted more. And I barely knew how to spell 401k. And so I was just trying to research what I should do to invest my money. And I read a lot of books. I read on finance, on money, on investments. And I had a coworker that said, "Hey, can you help me with my 401k?" And I shared what I'd learned in the books that I'd been reading. And she said, "You have a gift, Paris. You should do this for a living. You should help people with their money for a living." And I thought, I'd never thought about it before that. So I went and looked to see what it took to become a financial professional, and the rest is history. And I've been doing it now for almost 25 years. It's been a really fun.
Congratulations, Mr. Paris, for sharing your knowledge to the world. And let's talk about the foundation of money mindset. How you define money mindset, and why is it so critical for financial success?
Well, I'm sure you've heard the book Think and Grow Rich. That book talks about how what the mind can conceive and believe it can achieve. And a lot of people want to have wealth, and they want to have, sometimes even more basic than that, a lot of people want to have financial freedom. And so one of the things that is really helpful in determining what somebody means by that is getting into their mindset. Like, what do you believe about money? A lot of the reasons why your people are in debt, people don't understand money, people are overwhelmed with money, is because as a child, they saw all the different money habits modeled by their parents, their aunt and uncle, their friends' parents. They saw these behaviors around money. And so now, when people get a little older and they have the ability to do some things with their money, they start to think, well, money's evil. Money's the root of, cause of all the problems. Money is a bunch of stress. Money causes fights. There's another saying too. There's three things you don't talk about: politics, religion, and money. And I think that has a lot to do with the fact that just people have a belief around money and a mindset around money that's just not as healthy as it could be. And so I want to really help people understand, what are your goals? What are your dreams? What do you want to do with your money? And let's figure out how to accomplish those goals. Because there's some strategies, there's some investments, there's some things to do. But more importantly is why. Why do you want to do the things you want to do? Because when you're tempted to spend money you shouldn't be spending, a lot of the reasons why you can overcome those temptations is because you have a why you're saving, why you're building wealth. Your why is stronger than the temptation, and you can overcome it. So that's a big thing that I talk about with my coaching, is I talk about the mindset and the habits and behaviors around money.
Mr. Paris, what are the most common limiting beliefs about money that hold people back?
I think a couple of them. One is that there's scarcity, that there's not enough out there. Also, another one is that it's hard to get, and I think that stems from a lot of the struggle that people have around it. And there's a lot of struggle with regards to people, because there's so many people asking us to spend our money with them. We have all these advertising agencies saying, "Hey, come spend your money here, come spend your money here," and we see all these great things, and we want to have all those great things, but then we look at our bank account, we look at our checkbook, and we say, well, I can't have it. And so with a limiting belief like that, you're not going to. One of the things that I found over the years is that if you give your mind a problem, it will focus on the problem. If you give your mind a solution, it will start to seek for solutions. And so one thing I share with people is say, we don't, I say, instead of saying you can't afford something, turn that around and say, how can you afford it? And that makes a big difference.
Yes, indeed. How can afford to be a billionaire, not a millionaire? Dream big. Mr. Paris, how does childhood conditioning shape our relationship with money? And it can be rewritten.
Can you repeat the question? I'm sorry.
How does a childhood conditioning shape our relationship with money?
Oh, very good question. When I was a kid, I would see my dad would say something that in the future, money will be easier to get.
Yes.
And that's a great mentality because I can believe that in the future it'll be great to have, but I also it can be limiting in that, well, why isn't it good to get right now? And so I've seen a lot of people when they, for example, I've had a lot of clients come to me and I'll talk to them about some of their why they spend the money they do, why they're in debt right now, what are their goals to get out of debt, what are their goals to achieve, get a strong savings and stuff. And as they're telling me a little bit about their story, about why they do the things that they do, I can almost immediately tell whether or not they had what kind of childhood they had. And one of those examples is if a child grows up in a home that has a divorced family. Often they see the fighting going on around money. One of the major causes of divorce is money problems, and I want to help solve that. I think that people, if couples are going to fight, let's fight about something other than money. If I can help you really understand how money works and how it goes, then you'll be able to have a better relationship with money, and then you'll be able to transfer that to your children. I have a lot of people that have traumatic experiences as a child where they, for example, maybe their mom or dad had to have 2 or 3 jobs, or maybe they were in a single parent home, and they just see the struggle that their parents went through. And so when they either have they either one or two things usually happens when a child has a parent that's doing that. One is they recognize the sacrifice, and then they work even harder as they grow up to be able to make up the difference and now try to support their parents. Or they realize, or they go the other way where they're now, money's too hard, money's too difficult, there's too much stress, and so they end up repeating the cycle of financial illiteracy. So it's kind of the old adage, when your parents smoke or drink, what is the likelihood that you might smoke or drink it? And you either go one or the other. You either smoke too, or you say, I don't want to do anything with smoking, or you either drink too, or you don't want to do anything with drinking. Same thing is true with money in many cases, is that as children see money behaviors modeled in their parents, they'll often either model those same behaviors or go the opposite and do the opposite of what their parents did.
Indeed.
And that's actually true for
Interesting.
wealthy parents as well as poor parents. Sometimes there's a lot of wealthy parents that spoil their children. And so there's some guilt associated with children who have grown up in wealthy, affluent homes because they see their friends that don't have enough. And so they feel guilty that they have more than their friends. And so they associate money with that guilt. And that's something that's negative. And then there's poor families that associate money with greed and with, in order to be rich, you have to be a greedy person. You have to be a jerk. You have to be somebody that walks all over other people. And so they start to form those beliefs around what it really takes to build wealth. And those just aren't true.
Yes, indeed. Mr. Parrish, what's the difference between a scarcity mindset and an abundance mindset in the real world financial decisions?
So I think one of the major differences is recognizing what if you feel like there's more out there and you can give and be philanthropic, you're from an abundance mindset. If you feel like there's not enough and you have to hoard your money, you have to keep it to yourself, then you're more of a scarcity mindset. And you can have a lot of money and still have a poor mindset or scarcity mindset. And you can actually have very little money and be an abundant person. And so I believe it comes down to there's a difference between being poor and being broke. Being poor is being poor is pretty much a permanent situation where you think that you're a victim and that everybody, the environment around you is what determines your success. And then being broke is a temporary situation where you have very little money, maybe right now, but you have the mindset and the belief system that you can go and figure it out. Like it's a solution oriented situation. People who have scarcity mindset are focused on the problems that money creates and why they can't do what they should, or why they can't afford things, or why their boss is a jerk, or why they can never get a raise, or why everything's always so costly, and why inflation is ruining their life. Where somebody with an abundance mindset is saying, wait a minute, yes, there's all these things out there, but let's figure out a way to get around it. Let's figure out the solution. Let's figure out how to overcome it. And I think that's a big difference too.
Can someone truly change their money mindset, or are they stuck with their default programming?
I believe somebody can change your money mindset because I have changed my own over the years. And usually that comes after a significant emotional experience. I had a very abundant life early in my life, and I had a significant experience where I lost everything. And I went from more of an optimist to a realist at that point. And I now have a very conservative way of managing my own money and how I make money. I have a very good business, and I manage my money very well. But I've met with people that have had situations in their life where if they're willing and open to receiving coaching and instruction, they can absolutely change their mindset, and they can be the one. There's an old saying that a lot of motivational speakers talk about. Are you the one person in your family tree that will change the whole family tree from you forward? And you can change your financials. And it really boils down to education, and then literacy. And then I think it's really important to hang out with the right kind of people. If everybody around you is poor mindset or scarcity mindset, it's very hard to break free from that. There's an old story about a bunch of crabs in a bucket, and the crabs are all in this bucket, and one crab sees the way out of the bucket, and he tries to climb, and he figures the way out, but then all the other buckets start pulling him back down. All the other crabs start pulling him back down into the bucket. And I think that has a lot to do with mindset. Is that if you are hanging out with people who are poor mindset, you're going to have a poor mindset. If you start to change them, I don't say get rid of your friends, but if you start to change your friends to have friends that are more abundant in their mindset, they're out there looking for solutions, ways to, crack the code, ways to make more money, you're going to be able to change your mindset way faster.
Tell me your friends, and I will tell you who you are, people. So, what is your number one
Yep.
recommended money habit for someone starting their financial transformation?
I think the number one thing that people can do is track their expenses. One of the things that I find as I meet with people, I think the most aha moment, or the moment where they realize, wait a minute, is when they see how much money they spent on the things they spent their money on. And it's fun to go back through people's statements, bank statements, credit card statements, and say, do you realize this is how much you spent on, going out to Starbucks? Or did you realize this is how much money you spent on Amazon last month? And when they start to realize that awareness is like, wow, what did I spend how in the world did I spend so much money on this stuff? And when people start to realize that they can change their spending habits and free up and start to use their money more efficiently and effectively, I think tracking your money, and I'm not saying, have a budget that's so restrictive that every penny, you got to put it in its place, but I'm just saying, track where your money's going. And if your money's going places that you're okay with, then keep doing it. If it's going places you're not okay with, then stop doing that and put money and discipline yourself so that your money is going where you want it to go, and to build wealth and accumulate the things that you want.
Yes, thank you for your recommendation, Mr. Paris. And as a money mindset, habits, and belief coach, what are your short-term and long-term goals?
So my short-term goals are, of course, I want to live what I preach. When I coach somebody, it's because usually I'm living the way that I live in such a way that when somebody comes in and I tell them, hey, this is what you ought to do, you can rest assured that I'm doing it too. And this is the way I live. And I'm very money conscious. And I saw my short-term goals are for sure to be able to help to just build my own credibility to the point where I can help up more people and they can see that, hey, Paris really knows what he's talking about because he's living it, he's doing it. And my long-term goals is I would like to help 1,000 families be placed on an undeviating course towards financial freedom. And, if you meet with me for a year or a couple of years, you may not achieve financial freedom fully in the time that we're meeting. But if I can meet with you for a few months, or if I can meet with you even once, then I can put you on a course and point you in the right direction so that you'll be able to achieve financial independence one day. I will feel like I have done a good work. And so I would love, as a goal right now, is to have 1,000 families be on an undeviating course towards financial freedom.
Good luck to your goals, Mr. Paris, and looking for more success. Let's talk about overcoming mental blocks. Why do so many people unconsciously resist wealth even when they say they want it?
Yeah, that's a good point. I think that goes back to a lot of the beliefs that they've created as a child and that they have now. One of the things that people believe is that money is hard, and that it correlates with math. A lot of people just think money's too hard. It's all about math. And life has this. There's a saying, being rich is hard, being poor is hard. Choose your hard. Being sick is hard. Being healthy is hard. Being fit is hard. Being fat is hard. Choose your hard. And so, if you sit down and actually and a lot of times the stress around your money is so real, and I get it, it's so real. But if you'll sit down and you'll take a deep breath, and even if you have a coach that helps you through this, and just breathe for a minute, you can actually sit down and track your money. How much is coming in? How much is going out? What are my liabilities? What are my debts? Like, how much do I really owe on my credit cards and or my cars or house or mortgages or whatever? How much do I really owe? And then how much do I really have in savings and my 401k and in my investments? Like, once you sit down and you actually get what's called it's called a cash flow statement, and that's your income and expenses. And then your balance sheet is your assets and your liabilities, your debts and your actual wealth, your savings and investments. Once you get those set and you have a good, strong understanding of where your money's going and what's happening and how much money you actually have and how much debt you really have, it's so clear. The clarity is so good. I met with a lady and she came to me. She says, Paris, I'm so far in debt. I don't know what I'm going to do. I think they're going to throw me in jail. I mean, she was really emotional. And I'm like, well, by the way, they don't throw people in jail anymore for debt. They don't do that anymore. And so we just sat down and we just got clear on her income. We got clear on her expenses. We got clear on exactly how much money she owed and to who. We got clear on how much she had in savings and all that stuff. And she's like, Paris, I can't believe it. This is not as hard as I thought. All these mental blocks that I had you just burst right through them, and I feel really good, and I'm going to move forward. And she was able to get out of debt and be able to live way more comfortably than she was before that, because she just took the time to become aware of it. And that awareness brought the change necessary for her to be able to accomplish or get further along towards her goals.
Yes, people, being aware of what you are doing. Mr. Paris, what's your advice for someone who feels undeserving of financial success?
Well, I do have a newsletter that I write, and in the newsletter, I have a section there that's called Faithful Finance. And a lot of times, undeserving comes from shame and guilt. It comes from having been told by somebody that you respect that you aren't worthy, you're not worth it, you'll never make it, you'll never be good at anything. What's interesting is that there's a really good book called Choose Your Enemies Wisely by Patrick Bet-David. And in there, he talks about some of the reason why you should fight for things is because of all the people that told you couldn't. And so many successful people in life have been told that they were dumb, they were never going to make it, all this stuff. I actually, in high school, one of my teachers told me that I was never going to make it. In a couple of teachers actually told me I was never going to make it in certain areas of life, and I've proven them wrong, thankfully. And so it comes down to a little bit of that. You got to have that gumption to say, you know what, I'm going to prove you wrong. But then there's also a very real dependence on the belief of others have in you. And so I would say to work on the belief. I have seen so many people that have come from situations where they didn't believe that they deserved it. And through some real coaching and some real questions, ask yourself, where does this belief come from? Why is this happening? And then I would also recommend reading biographies of other people that have had similar situations and see how they overcame those beliefs. Because I want you to know, if you're listening to this and you don't believe that you are worthy of wealth, or even being worthy of just being financially okay to be able to breathe, that's a lie. And you are absolutely capable of having financial success and being being abundant. It's absolutely available to you and available to all of us. And it starts with our belief first. And then once we believe we can do it, then we need to develop the skills to be able to back up those beliefs with actual evidence. So your evidence begins to build more confidence. The more you actually do things, the more confidence you'll build. And that reinforces the belief that you can do it. So it starts with, there's a little bit of overlap there where you've got to have the belief, and then you do the things that are necessary. And then as you see success doing those things, you'll start to believe even more in the fact that you can do the things that you need to be able to have the success you want.
Yes. Believe within yourself that you can do it, people. I think that's the key first before you will be successful. Mr. Paris, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because Abstract Essay is already in 5th season, Abstract Poetry in 2nd season, and Book 101 Review in 5th season, Comedy 101 in its 2nd season, and Food 101 in its 5th season as well. Geography 101 and Love Letters are in 4th season. Mental Health 101 is my baby podcast. Movie 101 Review and Music 101 in its 3rd season. And Science 101 and Sex 101 in its 1st season. Please do listen to them wherever you listen your podcasts. Mr. Paris, if you could only teach one principle about money mindset for lasting success, what would it be?
I would say to begin to work on your mindset. If you believe that you can achieve something, you have a higher success of achieving it. After belief, a lot of studies have been put out about goals and setting goals. And if you have a goal to become financially set and free one day, you have to create a plan to accomplish that goal. A goal without a plan is not really, it's very hard to accomplish. And then the second thing, or the thing I would advise after that, is if you have an accountability coach, somebody that can guide you and direct you along the path, it really increases the opportunity for you to accomplish your goals. So if you have a goal to be financially free someday, set that down, define what that really means, and then figure out a plan. Figure out where you currently are in your finances, figure out where you want to go, figure out where you currently are, and then create a plan to get there, and then find some people or a coach to be able to help you make sure that you accelerate your success.
Indeed. Mr. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge to the world and hoping for more and more and more empowering coaching to come. So can you please invite our listeners to support your business itself?
Absolutely. I have over 20 years of dealing with people across the kitchen table who've told me that they don't have money to spend. I've come up with a program where I can actually find several $100s a month. And it's in my free ebook. You can go to pariscluff.com. That's Paris, Paris, Cluff, CLUFF.com/free book. And it's a download. If you go through the process that's in that book, you'll be able to really free up some cash flow and have a positive cash flow and be on your way towards financial independence. You can find me anywhere on socials under Paris Cluff, and I'd be happy to, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to help.
Yes, people, let's support Mr. Paris, because if you support him, more and more empowering coaching to come. So, Mr. Paris, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Daniel. I appreciate it.
More to come, people. See you soon.